Hello, tile friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Tile Money Podcast. My name is Luke Miller, your host. Today, we've got another great interview for you. I was able to catch up with my friend Chris Rachel out of Nebraska. And Chris has a great remodel business, Superior Home Solutions. And he specializes in kitchen and bathroom remodels all by himself. He's got a great thing going. He's built up a client base that has him booked out for a year. We talk about that. We talk about pricing. We talk about scheduling. We talk about communication. This was a very informative episode. I know you're going to benefit, especially if you're interested in remodeling, getting into more of the remodeling side of things. So look forward to this interview with Chris. Before we get to that, I do want to take a moment to thank my sponsors. I want to thank Happy Tile Guy. That is the place where you go for your websites. If you are a tile guy, this is the only place online that I know about that is created, websites created for tile guys specifically by a tile guy. I want to thank the National Tile Contractors Association for sponsoring this podcast. The NTCA is the largest and the oldest association for tile contractors in North America. Go to them to get more involved in the industry. Go to them to find your new 5 best friends, where you can rub shoulders with people who have been running successful tile installation businesses for generations, many years. You can rub shoulders with some of the largest tile contractors in the United States. I want to thank Ladecree International for sponsoring this episode. Ladecree is the inventor of thinset right here in the United States. Family-run, privately owned company. Great family values, great materials, and great warranties. Check out Ladecree if you've never used their products before. I want to thank GoBoard by Johns Manville. GoBoard is a Johns Manville company. GoBoard is an innovative, lightweight foam waterproof system for showers, complete shower system. If you haven't used GoBoard, check them out. They're a great option. They care about contractors, and they're communicating with contractors and continuing to make slight adjustments and improve their products based on you, the end user. So check out GoBoard. And reach out to all my sponsors. Let them know you appreciate them sponsoring me, sponsoring this podcast, and bringing you the knowledge like we will here today. So without further ado, let's get to today's interview with Chris Rachel. All right, Chris. Well, thanks for joining me today. Why don't you get everybody started and let them know if I missed anything in the interview, where you're from, and how long you've been working in the business.
So I'm originally from Bristol, Tennessee, and I started in the business when I was very young. My dad had a tile company, and I kind of grew into the trade working with him. I was very young, but
like pre-teenage years, kind of.
Yeah, my parents got divorced when I was 5, and my dad got full custody. Mm-hmm. So I would get off the school bus on job sites. So that's how I learned the trade, doing homework at other people's homes.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I've been around it quite a while, and it's really just about all I know.
Mm.
I joined the Air Force in 2009 when the economy crashed, and that's when I started Superior Home Solutions while I was active duty.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so that was, keeps me pretty busy doing both of those things. And I separated from the Air Force in 2016. So ever since then, I've been plugging away with Superior Home Solutions, and just been doing kitchen and bathroom remodels, just focusing on those 2 things. And it's been working out great.
Yeah. How long have you been in Nebraska?
I've been in Nebraska since 2009. So 11 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you make the switch or kind of expand the services you were offering from, just tile? Your dad was a tile installer, correct? Or was he more like a remodeler?
He remodeled. He also had another company that focused on commercial tile installation. So between those 2 companies, I was able to, kind of diversify and pick and choose, which trade do I really love the most? And it was tile. Um, so when I got here and I first started out, I was offering tile services, and I came to realize, a man can do very well with just tile. But for me, I realized that I could do better than that with doing full on remodels. And so far that's worked out, and that's just what I've stuck with, ran with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how that works. I think it has a lot to do with our background and just, also the location we're doing business in sometimes has a lot to do with that. Is that I'm not real familiar with your area over there. Is it a pretty small area, like a farming community or?
So I'm in Ashland, which is basically just dead smack in the center of Omaha and Lincoln. So, I have 1 million people to the east of me and roughly 500,000 people to the west of me. So I'm able to diversify that clientele base a little bit there and reach out into those smaller farm communities where I am a lot, as opposed to in town.
Mm, yeah. It does seem,
Yeah,
because I grew up in the Midwest as well, in farming communities. It does seem to, it's a tight knit community, even though everybody's spread out, a little bit further.
very.
People are looking for someone to, hey, they want to do business with someone local. Typically, once you start, bringing in contractors from Lincoln, from the big city, right? You're taking a chance. It's like, who are these people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you found that to be the case? That's what I tell a lot of my friends, and the tiles contractors, remodelers. I say, hey, if if you want to live somewhere where your expenses are a lot lower and the prices are still high, find a farming community.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And that's where I get a lot of traffic through Google is from those farming communities because, you might have a town of 100 people,
Right.
and that nobody there is remodeling kitchens or bathrooms.
Right.
They're all farming. So
Yeah.
being able to reach those smaller communities and just go from one home to the next within that town is very nice.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how the business is structured. Is it you? Do you have apprentices? Do you have a crew?
So right now it's me, myself, and I.
Okay.
Um, I'm doing everything from start to finish by myself. There are occasions where I may run into something plumbing, electrical, where I'll bring in a plumber, electrician, or there's more drywall work than I want to do, so I'll bring in a drywaller. But
Right.
I don't have any employees. That's just the best way I've found for myself to operate. Um, I'm very picky, so finding someone that can do as good a job as I want done is a struggle for me. And I
Mm,
would say that's the biggest struggle for my business is being able to find someone that I could employee that I would trust to do the job and do it well.
yeah. Do you ever
Yeah.
bring in like day laborers, or how do you handle larger projects, or do you just not take them?
Larger projects, I just try to stay away from.
Yeah.
The I guess a good example is I just finished a kitchen remodel in a home that was built in 1903.
Mm,
So it was basically jacking that side of the house up,
wow.
tearing out the foundation, replacing the foundation, tearing out a roof above the ceiling, an existing roof above the ceiling, and eliminating that so I could get everything square, plumb, level, and perfect.
Yeah.
That was a job that was on my books for about 2 years. So I felt bad, turning it down and walking away from it. They've been a great client. So uh, I'm proud to say that's my last big job I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Know your limits, right? Yeah. That
Yeah,
sounds like a lot to
exactly.
take on for one man. Not only that, but I mean, how long were you there? Like a couple months? Was it a few month commitment?
I was there 63 days from start to finish.
Yeah. So
And yeah, it was a little challenging. It was about 2 hours away from where I lived, so I did have a toy hauler. I put it at a local campground where I was just 10 minutes away from the job, so that helped out tremendously.
Yeah.
That allowed me to, focus on the job and work some crazy long days just to help make it more profitable for me now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what kind of projects are we talking about in Nebraska? I mean, obviously kitchen and bathroom remodels, but what, can you give us an idea of the level of quality or materials that you're working with over there?
Yeah, for sure. I went from growing up with, concrete board and red guard and mud pans.
Mhm.
And then I got to Nebraska and realized, oh, wow, there's Schluter, there's Laticrete, Go Board, Weedy,
Mhm.
Prova. There's a lot of great companies out there and they offer some amazing warranties. So
Mhm.
I'd say just a few years ago, I started using strictly Weedy and Laticrete shower systems. And their uncoupling membranes, things like that. But of course, I try to stick with Weedy for their warranty or Laticrete for their lifetime, or even more so now. I'm becoming more adapt to Schluter for their warranties as well. So those are the ones I try to stick with.
Are
And
you
I
are you
think,
using those warranties in your messages to clients or contracts or
yes,
selling points?
definitely. They are big selling points. Most of the jobs I go and look at, or they've had previous contractors come in and give them estimates. They weren't aware of that. They didn't know it existed. Other contractors aren't selling them on these amazing products that are available to us. So
Right.
that is a really awesome selling point
Yeah.
for us.
I would say so. Yeah, I think we should be taking advantage of that a lot more than we typically do. Than I
Yeah,
see.
definitely.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of good reps in that area where you're at? Because it's a smaller community. Do they come through the area, or are they available via phone, or schedule out a time to visit your job sites?
Yeah, definitely. I know these last 2 or 3 months, I've been away a little bit from the industry. So I just talked to Mike Sema last night, and he informed me that a few of our reps have changed. So
Hmm.
um, I do know Laticrete was Jeremy, I believe. So he's now been replaced by someone else.
Hmm.
I don't know who that is. I haven't met him yet. Hopefully, I'm meeting him here next week. But all the reps here, they're great as far as communication goes. If we have an issue, we can usually shoot them a text, whether it's early in the morning or after hours, and they're more than willing to help us out and answer questions. And
Yeah.
for some of the other manufacturers where we don't have local reps, like Ardex, we have Jake Swoboda here. He's a good friend, and he's always there. Where I do use quite a bit of Ardex, but a lot of those other reps that aren't here, they're probably going to pass through Omaha at some point.
Right.
And I know, I know Mike does a good job of keeping track of those guys and when they're going to be passing through, so we can have events and guys like myself can get out and meet them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super cool. Yeah. Mike
Yeah,
does a good job. He's got that new shop and he's putting it to use. So it's good to see.
yeah,
It's
for
good to see.
sure.
What can you give me any good examples, or what is trying to express to some of the listeners who maybe don't stay in contact or don't know who their rep is? Can you give me like a real life example, or just a little bit more on that, just staying in contact with your representatives from the companies?
Yeah, so I had an issue. I would say it's been a few months. I was actually making a transition from using Laticrete mortars with their you know. So I had gotten I believe it was Multimax Light, I
Mm,
believe it was,
yeah.
or Tri-Light, one of the two, and I mixed it up, and I just didn't like the consistency. I was like, man, this can't be right. So I reached out to the rep, and he's like, yeah, this is what you do. You need to mix it slower and toss a little bit more water in there, get it to where you like it, stay within this range.
Mm-hmm.
And, if it wasn't for that, then I wouldn't have been able to lay, whatever it was that night, 400 square feet of tile.
Right.
So that would have put a big dampener in my schedule. But, it's little things like that. He actually came out to the job site. I think it was 8:00 that night.
Oh, wow.
And, he wanted to see what was going on. He was just as interested in it and seeing what was wrong as I was. So he was there, and it was awesome. Yeah. It was truly awesome.
That's a good example. And I think it's really important too that we stress. It's just, it's just one of those things, like communicating with these reps, staying in touch with them. If something ever were to go wrong, I mean, if you're like Chris and you're utilizing those warranties to sell your warranty, and the job, the client knows they have a warranty, well, you want to make sure that your communication with the company that actually produces that warranty, you have a track record of communicating. Because what happens is if you try to pull a warranty spec and they've never heard of you, none of the reps have heard of you, nobody knows you well, not that you couldn't get that warranty, but it would just, things flow so much easier when you're, in contact with the people and they know your name, they know your business name, they know your reputation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So where are you finding your best clients over there? Is it all word of mouth, or are you doing any advertising? You said Google works well for you in your area.
Google is phenomenal. I love Google.
Yeah.
I have an SEO that does a really good job what he does. So it allows me to get a lot of phone calls and emails for potential clients.
Nice.
And I would say it's a pretty even mix between, getting customers from Google or referrals. I could easily operate fully off of referrals, but there's good referrals and bad referrals in the sense of money. I may have a referral from 5 years ago, and that referral may be expecting the prices that I gave their friend 5 years ago.
Right.
Well, now I've grown,
Yeah,
I'm not in that range anymore. So
yeah.
I think being able to diversify there is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. We all love referrals, right? But the problem is once you start raising your prices, these people talk and they say, well, we had a bathroom done for 10,000. Well, 5 years later, that, your prices might've went up to 15 or 20 for your starting remodel. So obviously, they're going to come in with different expectations. And have you ever been able to land one of those clients that, maybe from 5-6 years ago, and they're calling you up with expectations of what you're supposed to charge?
Yes, I have. And it was work, it was pretty tough to reel them in and get them to understand, these are my costs now. These are where, these are the prices that I'm having to charge to run a successful business and stay legal and all that. And so it's possible. I have done it. It just takes a little more work. A little more mouth work. Yeah.
Yeah. What, since you do, you are a general kind of remodeler, contractor, how is the current situation? I mean, I'm seeing prices of lumber like $5 or $6 in some places for a 2x4. How is this going into your consideration with job, estimating right now?
It's a real weird time. I mean, nobody's seen this situation ever happen. So it's shifted my mind a little bit. Kind of got me thinking, where are we going with this? Because once prices go up, they obviously never do go back down.
Yeah.
But as far as seeing, yeah. So, I mean, we're not seeing a lack of jobs here. Houses are still been thrown up left and right. My phone's still blowing up. Everybody that I talk to in the area, everyone's staying more busy than they want to be. So, we just keep rolling with that and taking what we can get while we can get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're in a unique situation because you're a remodel contractor and you're by yourself, a single man crew, and you're saying your phone is blowing up. You've got good presence online, good SEO search. So you're in a really good position to kind of, it's always better to have a lot of leads, and your schedule's tight. Obviously, you can only fit so many remodels in a year or so. Let's talk about pricing. I mean, what have you learned? We've been talking about this in the group and offline. What have you learned about the way you're pricing your work and the value that you really are bringing to your clients?
Yeah, so kind of how I'm pricing, and I started this a couple years ago. Um, Actually, when I transitioned from the Air Force to doing this full time, I sat down and put pen to paper and really broke things down and said, okay, these are my expenses each month.
Mm-hmm.
I have to make X amount each month. And if I don't, then I have to make up for it another month, or I could go upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So just to simplify what I needed to do. And once I did that, I realized, okay, so if I need to make X amount each month, then I need to make X amount each day.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is when I look at a job, I say, okay, I'm going to be here, let's say 12 days. And this is the bare minimum that I have to make. Let's just, for the sake of conversation, say it's $100 a day. Um, so if I get a job that's 7 days, I'm not going to bid it at $700 because that's my bare minimum.
Right.
That puts you in a spot. It's kind of rough, So I try to go a little bit beyond that, say double or triple that minimum.
Okay.
And strive for that even more so this last year because I've noticed other companies their prices are up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that are willing to pay for quality work, and that's my main focus. Are those people that want a quality job and they are willing to pay for it.
Mm.
Um, so that's how I price my jobs. I sit there and say, okay, I'm going to be here 7 days. This is what I need to charge. This is how much more I can make off of that job for my business. And whether that's investing in tools to help me do my job better, or throwing some more money in a retirement account, or helping towards taxes, which we all love.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I handle pricing.
Yeah, it's solid advice. I mean, I think we've all, been there, is where we figure something's going to take, like you're saying, a week, and it ends up, taking closer to 2 weeks. So I think doubling your bare minimum is always the safe bet.
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
it is true. Like, like where you're at in the world, if a homeowner is going to get somebody from Lincoln to come in, they're going to charge travel time. They're going to probably have a per diem for their guys. They might end up putting them in a hotel, depending on the company and the scope of the work and stuff. So things do get really expensive out there in the Midwest. And I think some of the California boys and even East Coast guys and stuff like that, I mean, they'd be shocked, because you guys in the Midwest sometimes are charging a pretty penny more than some of these big city boys.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot more logistics involved out here, and then of course winter comes along and you're fighting
Right.
snow and ice.
Yeah.
That's a headache too, but
yeah, it's not all it's not all easy cake days. That's for sure.
Yeah. We don't have sunshine every day.
Right. Right. So let's get into communication. We were talking a little bit before this, and you were saying, I think, one thing I see a lot of younger guys doing is just miscommunicating with their clients. Let's dive into that. I mean, with the amount of leads you have coming in, have you built a system for communicating? What is your process? What can you share with us?
Yeah. So with communication, while I was in the Air Force, that was something that they ingrained in us. I mean, we heard it every single day, multiple
Right.
times a day. Communication is key. And with our job, we had radios and we had to be in constant communication with our coworkers. So that was a big deal, communicating. And that kind of followed me into remodeling.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get a lead, someone calls, what I'm doing is, I'm giving them a rough estimate over the phone and kind of qualifying them for me, for my company.
Yeah.
I don't want to go out there and look at a job that they're just kind of fishing around for or whatever. But what I'll do is when they call, I'll set up a time, go out, look at the job, and say, okay, this is where you need to go for these materials. There's a designer here; she'll help you out, help you make some selections, and take some pictures of your bathroom or some ideas that you have in mind, and kind of connect with them a little bit while I'm there.
Yeah.
But help them out a little bit as far as which direction they need to go. And after I leave that next day or 2 days later, I'll follow up. I'll call them and say, hey, were you able to get out and check out some materials and find what you're looking for? Or how can I help? How can I help you find what you're looking for so we can remodel your bathroom?
Yeah.
And, whether they say, yay or nay, I'm calling back a couple days later. And those are the people that, see that I care about their project.
Yeah.
And they're, it excites them to know that they found someone that's just as excited as they are to have their bathroom remodeled. So, and I see that. I mean, it's clear as day, if you're able to communicate with someone that's interested in your services, I mean, they're going to latch onto you, hold on to you, and they're going to be the ones blowing your phone up. Hey, when can you start? When can you get here? Where are we at?
Yeah.
So I think communication is just huge, huge.
And you said it all starts with that first phone call, and you said something that I really appreciate, and that is pre-qualifying over the phone, right?
Yeah.
Instead of,
definitely.
especially where you're at. I mean, a run out to see a job could be a couple hours, right?
It could.
So you really want to pre-qualify, but a lot of folks will say and argue that you shouldn't give prices over the phone, or you can't. What is your? I mean, take it from the top. Let's say I just called you and I'm like, I got a bathroom. I got to, remodel. How would you pre-qualify me?
Yeah. So I would ask, is it a standard bath? What size bath is it? They say, it's 10 by 5. Let's just say a standard bath. And I would say, okay, well, I'm booked out through October of 2021. So I'll be doing estimates again in June, July of next year. And our standard bath remodels can range anywhere between $25,000 to $30,000, just a rough estimate. And how they react to that rough price that I just gave them will then determine which direction I take that conversation. Okay, yeah, let's get you scheduled for June for me to come out. But if they're like, oh gosh, we can't afford that, then I know that I'm out of their price range. And that doesn't mean that I just hang up the phone and say, screw you. I try to direct them in a direction where maybe there's a local guy that's just starting out and he's trying to find work or whatever. I give them that recommendation and say, hey, you might try calling this guy. I know he has some time that's available or whatever, I guess, depending on the scenario. But
yeah,
that's how I handle those rough estimates. And I think kind of what you're saying, you see a lot of guys, and I've seen it in the group too, everyone's like, oh, we don't give pricing over the phone. I think maybe some of those guys are seeing, maybe they think that we give exact pricing over the phone for us that do that. And that's not the case. It's a blanket that kind of covers both directions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think a lot of the pushback on pricing too is when prices are just way too low, and any little thing, if a job goes over an extra 4 hours, that's just going to, really upset you and blow your budget. I think, this kind of pricing is kind of built in as like you're saying, it's not a set price, first of all, until we get out there. It's just establishing this is kind of the caliber of the work we do. So let's say we were talking about tile, a strictly a tile, shower remodeler, or, you do some backsplashes or whatever. You have like your set prices. Say, well, traditionally we start around this price for a subway backsplashes, or, we can get and remodel a tub to shower conversion for, around, most of them fall around this price. I mean, it's really ballpark, like Chris is saying, right? And it's more or less like, seeing how they react, So you're 12 months out at the time right now?
I am currently 12 months.
And so you're not even booking walkthrough appointments or consultations until summertime, right? That's what, of next year. So yeah, which makes sense. So how are you losing people on that alone, or how many calls does it take before you say you get somebody that says, yeah, I'll wait till June?
Yeah, it takes a few, I want to say when I started getting this volume of calls, it was probably 3 years ago, roughly, before I started getting as many calls as I do today. And, it took some time, but it was pretty rough to kind of decipher, how do I want to do this? How do I want to pre-qualify customers? Do I give pricing over the phone? I was hesitant to do that. But it took quite a while for me to be able to build up and find those customers that are willing to wait a year for a quality job. I mean, they're definitely out there. That's for sure. You just gotta, make up your mind and say, this is what I want to do, stick to it, and be able to follow through with it.
Yeah. So what is your process right now? Say somebody does get you on the phone and they say, yeah, we'd like to wait for you, Chris. We've heard good things, or, whatever. When do you communicate with them next? Are you taking some sort of deposit to hold that June spot, or how does that work?
Yeah, so usually for those people that want to wait for the estimate to June to July, what I'll do is I'll put their name and address on my calendar. And usually a month, 2 months before, I'll give them a call and say, hey, just making sure you're still wanting to have your bathroom remodeled. Most of the time it's yes. And, it falls back into that communication, like we just talked about.
Right.
From that point, I'm communicating with them, trying to figure out, okay, when can I go and look at this job in June or July, and then schedule it. So usually once I go and look at the job, they make their material selections and send me everything that they need. I will plug all that stuff into the estimate, send it over to them and say, hey, this is the price. If you want to move forward, I need X amount down. And what I do with some customers, not all, but some of them, they're hesitant to pay 50% down. So what I'll do is say, hey, once you give me the 50% down, I'll order the materials and deliver the materials to your home.
Right.
And they can sit there for 6 months. That's why you can have some peace of mind knowing that you at least got what you paid for. If I fall through, then somebody else can come and do the labor. You've already got your materials.
Yeah.
So not that would happen, but
right.
It's peace of mind for them.
Oh, absolutely. And when you collect the other 50%, is that a progress payments or at the end of the job?
So that's at the end of the job.
Yeah.
So that's just the best way I've found for me to do it.
Works for you. Yeah.
It does. I know some guys take progress payments. Shoot, whatever works, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, I think it really depends on the structure of the business as the owner or worker of the, of the business. And it sounds like you're not wanting, that big job was too big. But I think if you have a lot of employees and stuff and bigger jobs, then you're definitely going to want progress payments. But,
employees, I know that adds a few different challenges there. So I could definitely see that.
Have you thought about hiring employees, or you're not too keen on that right now?
I had 2 employees, and that was 2017 and 2018.
Yeah.
One guy decided to go down a rough path, and the other guy I hired just so he could continue to finish out paying into his retirement for his last 2 years. He was 65. So he was very talented, great guy, but he was old. He'd served his time,
Yeah.
ready to go play with the grandkids. But after those two guys left, I realized, shoot, I can make just as much money, if not more, by myself, and not have to worry about anybody. And ever since then, I've been pretty happy with that. So
Yeah.
I haven't really had any reason to consider employees, but it is something that always crosses my mind, as to, which direction can I take the business? Could I do employees and still do what I'm doing and have a secretary plus another crew or whatever, I like to keep options open.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I probably think about it probably more than I should, but
Right.
it's definitely still an option for me at this point.
Yeah. Do you have a big vision, or are you just kind of taking it as it comes and seeing where it goes with the company?
So right now I'm taking it where, as it comes to me. I am doing well with the business, and I always think back to what my dad told me. If it's not broke, then don't fix it. That kind of plays a certain role in that. Right now it's working, it is growing, and I don't have any reason to change it right now at this point. But where I would like for it to go is hold on to the company, and then when I have a kid, not raise my kid exactly the same way, but have him involved in the business, and hopefully he would spark enough interest and want to take over the business when that time comes.
Yeah,
I mean, that's my vision.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a good vision to have. The vision is something you're always striving for. You're always working for it. So just knowing, like, hey, I want to build something that I can work side by side with my kid. That's good, and that'll take you there, basically.
Yeah,
and all the other
I
stuff
think it'd be cool.
All the other stuff is just details. I mean, that as you grow and the years progress, I think the details will work themselves out as long as that vision, you're going to follow through on that.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk. I'm still kind of stuck on the communication thing. I want to circle back to that if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've got these clients and you're following up. It sounds like you have a really good follow up system. Are you using any tools, or is it just like pen and paper, calendars, pretty basic stuff to help you follow up with people and can keep that communication open?
So I would say it's a combination of my brain, my notes app on my phone, and dry erase board. Um, I know who I have to call when I have to call them. Sometimes I need those little reminders on an app or dry erase board, but most of the time when I book someone, it's at least 6 months out. So what I'm doing at that point is I'm calling that person once a month, as well as everyone that's 6 months out. I'm calling once a month. Usually what I'll do is one day when I wrap up early, I'll come home and sit down, look at that dry erase board, and just go through and make those phone calls. Some people prefer text messages, so I text them even. I try not to do that. I like to be able to talk to them as opposed to text. But call them once a month, and then once we are a month away from getting there and doing the work, I like to talk to them once a week at that point. And then, once I'm a week out, call them every day, every other day.
Yeah.
Depending on my schedule and whether I know, yes, I'm going to be there this day a week from now, or if I have to say, depending on this current job, I could be there either this Friday or next Monday. It'll just kind of depend. And I just stay in contact with them. And, everybody that I've had to do that with, I mean, they say, we appreciate you, communicating with us. It's nice knowing, where you're at, and kind of shows that you're on top of your game a little bit. And also helps them, kind of schedule if they have kids or, maybe a pet or whatever that they have to take care of before I get there. So,
That's key. I mean, that's huge. As you're talking, I'm thinking back, on the different trouble jobs, we all have them. And
Oh
almost
yeah.
always, it's probably due to lack of communication in a lot of the cases, especially when you're real busy. I mean, right now I'm talking to a lot of tile contractors and remodelers who are just slammed like you are. They're booked out a year. They're just, running around. And that's when it really becomes hard to communicate and to keep on touch. And a lot of times we get really scared if we have to postpone a job by a week because we're finishing up, a job or two or even a few days, and it can be a scary thing. But I guess what you're saying is just let them know, like, hey, look, it looks like I'm running a day behind. You should be able to point it down. If you're calling them that often, you can really, help them to feel confident and secure about, okay, he says he's going to be here. Oh, he says, Chris said, he's running a day behind now, we'll see, and then, if something changes again, you just call him up as soon as it changes. So it just sounds so simple. Sounds so easy.
It is. I mean, I'm a very firm believer, it's those little things that make a big difference.
Yeah.
There really is.
Yeah.
Just establishing that rapport with them basically before you even get there.
Yeah.
To do the work, well, I guess you did that for the estimate, but you're making them feel a lot more secure about going with you by doing that.
Yeah, I remember a lot of my jobs because I was running a couple crews and getting real busy. And I remember I would show up at the house the day we were supposed to work with maybe a phone call the day before, letting them know, yeah, we'll be there. Or maybe sometimes a week before. But a lot of times I would show up and not even remember what the person looked like. It would be like, man, I don't remember them looking like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a bad communicator.
Yeah, for sure.
So don't do
But I
that.
mean, that happens to me too. It's like, man, you talk to so many people, you go out and look at so many jobs or whatever, and it's like, man, what was this, the guy that liked the Nebraska football team or Iowa? Like,
Yeah.
What do we need to talk about when I walk through that door? It's kind of
right.
It's always the little things.
Well, that was why I was curious if you had any tools to help with that, like a CRM or something like that. But it sounds like just notebook and your brain and a whiteboard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how many weeks are you working a year? I take it you're not working 52 weeks a year?
No. If you'd asked me that question 2 years ago, the answer would have been yes. But, last year we went through the flood, and this year we went through remodeling a home and selling a person a new place. So I've had a lot of time off these last 2 years, and that's kind of held me back a little bit on some goals that I had set for myself at the beginning of the year. So I'm hoping and praying next year, when I set my goals, that I'll be able to reach them. But, like right now, I haven't worked this last week. I haven't worked. So that's just been due to having to cancel jobs due to moving and not wanting to reschedule other jobs due to other people's schedules. So, I guess one thing about me is when I start a job, I'm there every single day until it's 100% finished.
Yeah.
And I don't leave until it is. I don't take any days off in the middle of those. So, you know, I would say it'd be comfortable. I've worked probably 40 weeks this year.
Yeah.
Or will have worked 40 weeks by the end of this year.
Yeah.
And I know that does seem a little light, and it is, and it sucks, but it'll all work itself out, and hopefully next year I can say, yeah, I worked 50 weeks this year.
Well, is that even the goal? I mean, with a business like yours and the demand, I mean, is it really even the goal to work 50 weeks? And all, or is it the goal to work closer to 45, 48? I mean, I'm not, everybody's different, right? But the beauty of it is, I mean, here you worked 40 weeks, you still bought your house, you still sold and bought a house. So you had a lot going on. So you were still able to do all right for yourself. I mean, and you booked out 12 months. So, I mean, from where I'm standing anyways, it sounds like a good, a good situation to be in.
It is. And I'm very blessed, to be able to say that. And, just like anybody in the trade, we all work our asses off to be able to get to those points and be able to do what we do. But I'm somebody that has to constantly be moving, constantly be doing something. So, next year I do want to work those 50 weeks. I don't want to take a lot of time off. You know, I want to dump money into my retirement account.
Right.
So when I'm old, broken down, and can't do it, I can, sit back and not have to worry about, what am I going to do for work, or how am I going to provide for my family?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So pretty much just, the getting's good right now. So go out and get it.
Take advantage of it. Yeah,
Most definitely.
Sure, for sure. That sounds real good, Chris. And kind of what I was getting at though is it's better to work 40 weeks and be financially secure than to work 52 and be living check to check. And
Most definitely.
Can you tell us a little bit about that transition? Because I know offline you kind of told me like, it wasn't always this way. Like you're saying, you used to maybe struggle a little bit, like everybody does when they're starting out. What was the big shift in your mind?
I think I may have said it, the biggest thing is I don't want to be that old broken down guy.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in a lot of contractors.
Right.
Guys are going out, they're absolutely amazing at what they do, but they're just not good at the business side.
Yeah.
And that hurts me as a contractor, because it's like, man, there's so many tools out there, and even guys like yourself doing what you do with Tile Money, like the resources are there.
Yeah.
And it's not like a complicated college class to attend or something like that. It's just guys like you and I, and what we've experienced. And I think that's kind of cool to be able to reach out to those guys that way. But that was my biggest shift in my mind was I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I do not want to be someone that, went from remodeling bathrooms and doing this beautiful work to having to sit at a toll booth and take tickets for somebody because I can't stand up, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I don't want that, So that's when I kind of decided, hey, I need to buckle down and really focus on where I want to take my business.
Yeah.
What's the vision for my business? Where am I going with this? Other than just doing what I love to do, I need to make good money.
Yeah.
It's out there, especially right now.
I can identify with that sentiment 100%. I mean, I remember in Monterey, this one time I was loading up tile in my truck, and this old boy comes up, and he's, he was like our grandfather, like 77, 80 years old. I mean, maybe he wasn't that old, but he sure looked every day of it. And he comes up in an old small pickup, like a Chevy Love, or, one of those original Toyotas, real small truck. And, he's all bent over, and he's loading his truck. And I just remember thinking what went wrong here? I mean, nothing but respect and love for the man and admiration. And it could have been that's his hobby, but the point is you don't want to be forced to be in that situation where, you're still forced to be working because you can't stop because you haven't, set anything aside or established any sort of business. I remember that was a big wake up call for me as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's just incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to share your insights and positive influence. And I know the audience will appreciate this interview. We've got a lot of guys who are interested in, expanding into remodel work. And I think you've given us a lot to think about today. So I appreciate you taking the time out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, Luke.
Yeah. Happy to do it. All right.
Awesome.
All right, Chris. Have a great day.
All right. You too. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, tile friends. So that was Chris Rachel out of Omaha. And, Chris really shared a lot. I really like how he kept driving home the point that communication is key, when you have a client, and I really liked his system there. So I hope you got a lot of value from today's interview. Let me know what you're thinking of the podcast. I'd love to hear from you. Reach out. If you need a website, go to happytileguy.com for all of your tile contractor website needs. And until next week, stay profitable out there, tile friends.